So I want to talk about Kamala Harris, who's on this little book tour of hers. The title of her book is 107 Days, which is the amount of time she had to run her presidential campaign after, President Joe Biden stepped down. And it's funny because this comes after the news where she says she's no longer running for governorship of her, state of California. And the reason why she said, she's not going to run is because of, she said the system is broken or whatnot and all a bunch of nonsense. But we all know it's because she can't win, which is kind of crazy because she was the vice president of the United States and she can't even win her own state when it comes to governor. That just tells you how bad she is. Right? It tells you how unqualified she was to actually be in a leadership role, that she doesn't even have a chance of winning her own state of California when it comes to the governorship. So of course she's on this little book tour, and of course she's going to be talking about everything in the book. And of course, the Biden campaign, people on the Biden campaign said, hey, she's going to be on a book tour, but she better not say anything bad about Joe Biden, especially when it comes to his cognitive decline or, even, trying to separate herself when it comes to, him being president. So they gave her a little warning and said, hey, do whatever you got to say, whatever you got to say. But if you say anything negative about Joe Biden when it comes to his cognitive decline, they're going to unleash everything, all the negative information when it comes to how bad Kamala was as vice president. So Mark Halperin, he talks about this, right? He talks about how he talks about this very thing that, based on, he dropped this reporting that if she does say anything negative about Joe Biden, that the Biden team is going to destroy her when it comes to her credibility. So let's hear what he has to say.
I'm going to break a little news here. Okay. We talk all the time about, what did Kamala Harris know and when did she know it about his cognitive decline? I will tell you, and this has never been reported barely at all. If the Biden people decide that Kamala Harris is coming after Joe Biden, wait till you hear the Palin-esque stories about how much they tried to help her be prepared to be vice president and be in a position to run, and how much they decided not happening. She's not up to this. And if the Biden people feel threatened, you will hear stories about Kamala Harris as vice president that will not make her look good. Okay, so there's a closeness to the couples. It's not like they're at war currently, but I'm telling you, if Joe Biden feels threatened, if his people feel threatened by her, this is going to escalate in a big way, and she will have a hard time defending against the stories if that dam bursts. They were extraordinary in trying to help her do the job of vice president. They gave her every opportunity, and they found in some instances that she had some issues. Okay? Moving forward.
And that is reporting, not Spidey sense, right?
That is reporting. That is not Spidey sense. If I ever get around to doing a book about 2024, you'll read a lot about that.
So you heard that, right? And look, that's not nothing new. Like, we all know that when it comes to qualifications, Kamala Harris was not qualified. We know she was a terrible candidate. Like this, this was one of the worst presidencies, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. This is one of the worst presidencies, administrations that, especially in my lifetime, right? You got two people that have you got basically a walking corpse out there that doesn't know what he's doing. And then you got Kamala Harris, who was only picked because she was a quote unquote black woman, right? Even though she's really Indian. And the fact that she was, she could have been president of the United States, right? She could have actually been there, okay? But we all know that when it comes to the Democrat Party, we can see their play, right? It doesn't matter for them who's the president, right? You can see Joe Biden, who's just a corpse. Like, we know he was never running the country. We know we got people behind the scenes that are actually telling him what he needs to do. Okay. And for a lot of these Democrats, it's gotten to a point where they say, hey, we can just put anybody in there and then just, obviously use the puppet strings and have them do what we need to do. Right. As long as they do that, it's fine. Obviously, she would be exposed when she actually had to, speak on things, and she would be exposed for the incompetent person that she is. But in terms of just making certain decisions and guiding them what they need to do, that's all they want. They just want to make sure they're installing someone that's going to do their bidding. Because we know there's people in the background probably running that are actually running the country. Okay. And this is so obvious because you look at, and this is why DEI just doesn't work. When you have people that just aren't qualified to do the job, people are going to be exposed. You're going to get people exposed for the competent people that they are, right? And just because you're going to install someone just because they're a woman, they're female, or they're black, they're gay or whatnot. This just doesn't work. You need to get people that are going to be qualified for the job. All right. And when you got Kamala Harris on there that doesn't know what she's doing, it's like, all right, so how did she get into this position? All right. You see how she handled the border that she's the border czar, but she didn't do anything in terms of making sure it was secure. And then you got Donald Trump coming in there. He secures the thing in there in weeks, months. And you're like, okay, Kamala, why couldn't you have done that? Okay, like it's simple. Like, you guys can control the border. Like, why can't you just shut it down and make sure there's no people? Because we all know that that's their goal, is to make sure they got people in there. So when you hear this stuff going on where the Biden team is like, hey, you got your little book tour, and if you say anything that disparages Joe Biden, if you find yourself trying to separate yourself from Joe Biden, or you talk about his cognitive decline and what she knows, because we all know that she knows a lot. Right, her being the vice president, she's in those rooms. She can see, the deterioration of President Joe Biden. Like, she can see that. All right, this dude is just not there. Because we all can see. If we can see it, then she's seeing it behind the scenes. Right. So many people saw it, but obviously nobody wanted to report on these things because they're all corrupt. And if she says anything that gets to a point where, hey, you seem that you're attacking Joe Biden, then of course the Biden team has so much dirt on Kamala Harris that they can release an abundance amount of information to show her as the incompetent person that she is. Okay, to just destroy her career, because we all know her career is done. Like, if she's not gonna run for governorship, maybe she tries to run for president, but we all know she has no chance. Even though she ran already in 2020 and she didn't get not one delegate. Right, so we know even if she runs, she's no threat. She's not going to win. People don't like her. She's exposed. We all know she's not a leader, and then we don't have to worry about her, running and winning to become president, because she's not going to win. So if she ever tries to actually, say anything bad about Joe Biden, we know that they have so much information that would destroy her political career. So I don't think she's gonna say anything that comes close to, making Joe Biden look bad, because they have so much information on it, and they would just release the floodgates and on just information on why she was just incompetent, why she couldn't do the job properly. Okay, and that's the threat that they're coming with, that the Joe Biden team is coming with. They're gonna show her, how she was just very incompetent when it comes to doing her job, right? Like they said, Palin-esque. Okay, so it's gonna be interesting to see, what she talks about when it comes to promoting her book, because obviously she has to be careful with what she says. All right, because you obviously don't want to get the Biden team mad, so they could be like, hey, you need to watch what you say, or we're gonna say XYZ about you and destroy you. Because we know there's an endless amount of information that people already know, but obviously he has, the Biden team has actually inside information, more detailed information that they could release to the public. So it's gonna be interesting to see where that goes. So those are my thoughts. Interested to hear what you have to say. Make sure to leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share, and if you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe. So guys, take care. Have a good one. Later.